Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you to Lucy for inviting Blackpool to present at the festival. We have a short video that hopefully will give you an overview of what we do for Lightpool Festival Blackpool. We've got some amazing things in Blackpool that are unique to Blackpool, a tramway that was the first in the UK. We also have some iconic historic buildings that have been there for many years, recently celebrated 125 years of the Blackpool Tower that has several different attractions inside it. There's the Winter Gardens, 140 years old, that has a theatre in it, 3,500 capacity, holds the World Ballroom Dancing Championships. And we have the Grand Theatre that also celebrates 125 years this year. It also boasts the only original tramway in the whole of the UK and the biggest amusement park in Europe, with the tallest roller coaster in Europe as well. Blackpool Illuminations is an attraction in itself that runs generally for about 60 days from the end of August, September until November. And the unique thing about this for the UK is it extends the holiday season. Generally in the UK, the holiday season by August will be coming to a close. The Blackpool illuminations give us an extra 66 days of attraction to offer to visitors, which attracts about 3.2 million people a year with a spend to the local economy of about £275 million. The equipment alone is worth 10 million. It's all built in Blackpool. The whole attractions, the lights, the features that everybody sees is built by a unique task force there that are now exporting their talents around the world, around the UK. There's a huge switch-on event that's organised by our team, Visit Blackpool. A local celebrity switches on the lights, usually hopefully somebody well known. We did have a horse one year, so anything goes, you never know what's going to happen. It's a unique event, all free, usually attracts about 20,000 people, but again, all based around light and this amazing attraction that we have called Blackpool Illuminations. So going back to 2016, there was a lot of work done that we understood that we needed to try and get people out of their cars when visiting the illuminations. There was a general trend that people arrived at the edge of Blackpool and just drove the full 10 kilometres of the illuminations while merely staying in their cars. And whilst that generated a huge amount of money, there was a desire to make sure that that actually got bigger and offered something different. So we applied for Coastal Communities Fund and were very successful, and that really was the birth of the Lightpool Festival, which started in 2016. We were very fortunate that we won the large event of the year at the local Lancashire Tourism Awards, and the funding came, as well as from coastal communities, from Blackpool Council via their arm Visit Blackpool, that are tasked with promoting Blackpool and promoting events, and a local organisation called Left Coast that works by making creative events for people and places. And they joined us in the launch event in 2016 and have been one of our biggest partners since. So now we've extended the festival to 15 nights, brings its own problems. We live by the sea. The wind creates its own problems, and the weather as well. We have to overcome them. There's nothing we can do. We're also part of a bigger network that's called Light Up the North, and in the north of England, that includes different cities that have their own light festival, and we all come together to try and bring art not only to Blackpool, but to the rest of the festivals as well. So there is the possibility that when an artwork comes to the UK and Lightpool, it also travels to Lancaster, Leeds, Sheffield, Manchester, to join up this whole network, which is very beneficial. We share ideas and we share resources. So we have several different strands to the Lightpool Festival. We have light art, where we either hire in or bring in works of art that is already available in the UK or internationally, or we commission works ourselves. On the right, you'll see work by international artist Luke Duram and the world-famous Museum of the Moon that has toured all around the world. We brought that to the UK and sited it in the stunning Tower Ballroom, where we held a dance event to tie into that called Dance Under the Moon. This year we worked to create a new work called Sun with Lancaster University, and with that we did engagement with local schools and school children to not only understand art but understand physics, so to try and merge the two things together, and we work with schools doing private tours, private education with those schools. In the UK, the Lightpool Festival is fairly unique in the fact that we also have a large performance. Most of the festivals in the UK produce mapping or outdoor events. We do performance. We've worked with the fabulous Fabian. We've worked with Bilbao Basso from France. We brought them over to the UK. So one of our main strengths is performance, whether it's with the local community through engagement or it's bringing professional companies in. And sometimes we merge the two together. So for an event that we did in 2018, it was called Light Odyssey. We worked with the BBC Philharmonic to create an event that was 18 months in the making, whereby we presented not only a 92-piece orchestra, but visual mapping into the building known as the Empress Ballroom in Blackpool. And for this, we created 6 new pieces of work that we put out an international call for artists to develop that work themselves. They each chose a piece of music and then submitted how they wanted that piece of music to be interpreted with this 3D visuals. A hugely successful event, and we're hoping to do that again either next year or the year after. We also try to engage the local community. There is a slight feeling in Blackpool, being a seaside resort, that the residents feel that everything is targeted at visitors and nothing is targeted at them. So we hear a lot that the illuminations are there, but they don't benefit from them. We have these iconic buildings with some of the best attractions in the UK, and they never get to visit them. So we try to do a lot of work with local communities to engage them and get involved, not only in the festival, but in their own events as well. One of these such events is the Carnival of the Lights. So using the USP that we have, which is our unique tramway, we have 3 heritage trams, and these trams all actually light up. I think that you saw them in the video going along the promenade, that the trams are lit up with light bulbs. People ride them just as normal trams, but instead of going to their destination, they actually just ride on the tram to go from one end of the track to the other. And because these were so successful and these tours were so successful, we decided that we would create an event called the Carnival of the Lights. And so basically what we did, we worked with the local transport company to put a special night on where these 3 illuminated trams that are unique to Blackpool would all travel in convoy at the same time. And then also with that, we created performance in front of it. In the image here, you can see Spark, who are obviously part of the festival this year. So they led the parade, and behind that, we had local community groups who'd worked to create huge-scale puppets, some children that had created smaller arts of work, and then we also work with people that are interested in making their own illuminated vehicles. So we invite them to Blackpool, they all come along and join in this huge procession. And then when they arrive in front of the Blackpool Tower, we do a huge performance there with, again, Spark, local community groups, and different organisations that we invite. The dogs. Everybody wants to know about Loomy dogs. So this event was actually started in 2014 by Left Coast, before Lightpool was even born. And the idea came from the creative director at the time, who saw this idea in the States and decided that it would be a good idea to start it in Blackpool. So basically what happened was, they came up with the idea that as people like their pets, why not get them to partake in the festival by dressing up their dog? So don't worry, no dogs were harmed, everything's okay, no to worry about that. And so what they decided to do was, rather than just say, come along and dress your dog, they looked around the town at the communities that they thought would get involved in this, whether it was elderly people that had a dog that wanted to do something with the dog, or it was deprived children, or it was people that just generally had a sense of community that wanted to do something. And so they set up probably 15 workshops that they invited people to come along with their dog, and they would sit there. They would be given a purpose dog coat, and they would be given lights, material, and help from the people there that would sew costumes for them, and they would dress their dog in whatever outlandish way they wanted to. So you had some poor dog walking home full of bows and glitter, and then you had other dogs walking home with just a set of lights because the child thought that was great as it was. And then we decided that in 2016, when the Lightpool Festival came along, that this was something that we really wanted to carry on doing. So Left Coast kindly gave us permission to take over Loomy Dogs. So we carried on doing that again in 2016, and then encouraged everybody that had taken part in these workshops to come along and take part in a final. So we built a special dog walk, and the people came along, paraded their dogs, and then they won whoever was the best dressed dog. And following on from that, what we did was we encouraged all those people to bring their dogs along and join us in the Carnival of the Lights parade. So not only did we have the trams, the performers, and the community groups, we had all the dogs joining as well. And we've carried on doing Lumi Dogs every year since. So extremely worthwhile doing that. The Glow Football is kind of a bit of a random event. What happened was, when I was looking for partners in 2018, we found at the start of the festival, I'm sure most of you have experienced this, that it's very difficult to get partners involved when you've got nothing to show them that you've previously done. So we spent a lot of time speaking to local companies that we knew wanted to get involved and promote themselves. And one of these companies was actually a community organisation that works with the local football club, Blackpool Football. And I went to meet them, and they said, we want to get involved, but we don't know how we can get involved with Light. So we went away and we had to think about this, and they did a lot of work with children in the Health and Education Initiative. So we're interested to get involved in that. And we just had this random idea that we would create an event called Glow Football. And what we do is we buy neon bibs and headbands for the children. They come along to sports halls. We turn off all the lights and put UV lights on, and they actually glow in the dark. And they play five-a-side football. And the interesting thing about this is people could say it's nothing to do with light and it doesn't matter. But we have 30 schools taking part in this. The children absolutely love it. And the interesting thing is, it kind of throws all their inhibitions away. So people and the children that are body conscious, or they're conscious that they're the only child that wears glasses, because it's in the dark and all people can see is it's running about, they just actively get involved. And so for us, it grows year on year. And what we do with following on from that, each heat that we hold, 2 teams win to go through to a final with 6 teams. And all of those 6 teams receive a follow-up talk from the head of illuminations about electricity, how it works, and what's the future for the illuminations. So it all ties in very well. So never be frightened that something that you're thinking of seems off the wall, because it can actually work. And this is a fixture of the Lightpool Festival now. One other event that we did with our great partners, Left Coast, we wanted to create something for the people of Blackpool. So Left Coast decided to produce an event called Rush. And what they did, as well as using professionals, they put a call out for local people that wanted to get involved in this performance, whether it was actually performing, or they felt they could volunteer, or they wanted to help. And we had a massive response. And the people that came along were from a great variety and a wide range of people. Some people felt isolated, that they didn't go out. Some people felt they wanted to dance but didn't have an opportunity to do that because it was always professional. So this event was created at a derelict police station on a car park. It was very damp and dark and dismal. And the whole event was brought to light by these 100 people that worked for 6 weeks undertaking this dance performance that they were immensely proud of, working alongside professionals to create an event that 2,000 people came to see. And the people that were involved in that have actually carried on now and created their own group that's called Rush Dance, that they follow on, they continue to meet, and they continue to perform. So a great story there for people getting involved in performance. And again, kind of unique to Blackpool in the fact that not many of the festivals do performance. So that was a great partnership there for us with Left Coast. I'm just going to touch on this briefly because it was just something that we got involved with this year. And there was a lot of work done in the UK that they'd done some investigation and found out that by the age of 6, children had already decided what they could and what they couldn't achieve in life. And they'd also decided what they felt that other people had actually done in their life. So we work with a local organisation called Primary Futures. And what they do is they go into schools and speak to children to try and tell them that they can be whatever they want to be. And they bring a panel of ordinary people in. The children ask them questions and try and guess what that person does for a job. And it was quite interesting that they thought most of the women were either hairdressers or babysitters, when in fact they were lieutenants in the RAF. So it opened up the eyes of these children. And to follow on from this, we went back into the schools and did a presentation and asked the children to draw what they wanted to be when they grew up. And because they'd had this talk, their aspirations changed because they felt there was no limit to what they could do. So we took these drawings, one from each school, and made them into a light box with Blackpool illuminations, and they became part of the art trail. So that was a really nice, interesting, different project that we got into. Coming to the end now, so I hope you're not all too bored. We try to do things in Blackpool for local. Although the kind of demographic of Blackpool is to attract tourism, we have a huge local population that are very talented, that just want the opportunity to do something. So we work with Blackpool and Fylde College to use their drama students and their technology students to work with us to develop new programs, to develop new performance. And we also work with local dance schools who probably don't get the opportunity to showcase their talents in a professional stage. And we have the facilities for them to do that, so we want to get them involved. And we work with local volunteer groups to get them involved. And we're building our partnerships quite successfully now with local businesses and people that want to invest into Blackpool. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Really fascinating to see so much performance involved in the Lightpool Festival. I think we can all be very inspired by this. I'm curious, you did so much between professional and the community together in some of these projects. Can you talk a little bit more about that? What are the challenges? How do you overcome those challenges?
Oh, thank you. Okay. So we can either do totally professional event, or we can do total community event, or we can do a mixture of the both. And they all present their own problems. I'm sure that you can imagine that when we do something like Lumi Dogs and you've got 100 dogs turning up, the logistics of what might happen there, I'm sure you can all imagine. So each event is different, and each community group that you meet is different, has different needs, has different aspirations, and different goals of what they want to achieve. So what we try to do is, rather than build a program of what we want, we go to speak to community groups. What do you want to do? Where do you want to be? What do you want to achieve? How do you want to get somewhere? And depending on how advanced that group is, we will then decide to either do something with them or partner them with somebody like Fabian, where they can get involved in the performance. It really does vary depending on the community group, how they want to do it. Sometimes we have an idea, as with the Rush, Left Coast definitely knew what they wanted to do, definitely knew that they had a certain amount of professional people and needed so many volunteers. So each kind of thing that we do is totally different. I can't say we specifically do this or we specifically do that, but we kind of open, and I think we just listen to what people want and then try and deliver that.
Great. So great to hear that you're asking the community what they want. That's so important.